What's up, students? My name is Spencer, and I love a good prank. But sometimes people just take pranks a little too far. That includes a former roommate of mine, who I'm going to leave nameless, but let's just say he may or may not be a student director at the White House campus. I cannot confirm or deny. Anyway, one time while we were living together, I came home expecting another normal, relaxing evening after a long day of work. But my roommate had other ideas. After watching an episode of Law & Order SVU, one of the best shows ever, I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth and get ready for bed. As I was standing at the counter, my roommate jumped up, pulled back the shower curtain, and screamed and scared the living daylights out of me. He had been waiting there for 45 minutes just to scare me. That's super commitment. Needless to say, I was super ticked. I screamed and he ran back into his room. I slammed my door as I walked back into my bedroom, and I was angry for a while. Now, maybe you haven't had somebody prank you like that, but you've probably had a friend or sibling do something to make you angry. Often the things that make us angry or make us hold a grudge towards someone are worse than a bad prank. Maybe you've been excluded from a party or a hangout that all your other friends got invited to. Maybe somebody at school spread rumors about you. Maybe your sibling broke or ruined something that belonged to you. Maybe your parents said no to something fun you wanted to do with your friends, or made you go to something that you didn't want to go to. Things like this make us feel angry, and that anger towards others can lead us to resentment and bitterness towards them. Being bitter and holding a grudge can feel good at first. It can feel like we're getting back at the person who hurt us. But if we're honest, as we continue to hold a grudge and be bitter about it, it really only makes us feel worse in the end. The good news is that bitterness is not a new concept. As long as there have been people, there has been bitterness. And the Bible actually addresses this very issue. About 2,000 years ago, the church was just getting started, and one of the main leaders of the early church at the time was Paul. You see, Paul at the time was a massive, popular public figure in the church, but this meant that he was also hated by many people who were not Jesus followers. And by continuing to spread the good news about Jesus, he became a big target to those who were not fans of Jesus. By publicly serving Christ, he suffered by being beaten, put into prison repeatedly, and tortured in many ways, including getting whipped and getting stoned, which meant people would literally throw rocks at him in an attempt to kill him. So here's a guy who is trying to help people, trying to do the right thing, trying to serve God. And how is he treated? Not great. If anyone deserved to be bitter, it was this guy. But what Paul says about bitterness is actually the opposite of what we would expect. In one of his letters to the church in Thessalonica, Paul encouraged the new Christians there and challenged them to live differently than the world around them. One verse in particular takes an interesting approach to the idea of bitterness and unforgiveness. He says this: make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong. This is in 1 Thessalonians 5:15. You see, Paul is talking about not getting revenge and not continuing the cycle of wrong. Paul knew that when people hurt us, our instinct is to hurt them back. Our instinct is to fight with words and actions in an effort to hurt the other person and make them pay for what they did. But for those of us who are followers of Jesus, Paul is reminding us that we are called to be different. We are called to treat others like Jesus has treated us. And how did Jesus treat us? Well, Paul says in a letter written to the church in Rome that God showed his great love for us by sending Jesus Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. That's in Romans 5:8. This means that even while we were still enemies of God and while we were still actively sinning against him, and before we ever asked for forgiveness, Jesus died for us in order to forgive us and cancel the debt that we owed him. For those of us who are Jesus followers, we need to do for others like Jesus did for us and forgive, even before they ask for forgiveness. Now, Paul had some legit reasons to be frustrated. People were treating him badly just for how he was living his life for Jesus. But even though Paul had suffered for an unfair reason, he didn't believe that his mistreatment ever required revenge. Instead, he writes this: make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. That's in 1 Thessalonians 5:15. So not only are we supposed to keep ourselves from paying somebody back wrong for wrong, but we're supposed to do good for others, even those who have wronged us. That doesn't exactly seem fair, but you know what? It isn't. That's the thing. Jesus changes how we see everything, especially forgiveness. Paul understood a fundamental truth about bitterness and holding on to hurt. And that truth is this: the more you hold on to a grudge, the more it holds on to you. A grudge is like a weight that you carry with you. When you replay the offense over and over and over again in your mind without any intention of doing anything about it, Or you complain to others in hopes of getting people to turn against the person who offended you. Or you make up in your mind that you will never forgive the person for what they did. Or you decide that you're going to cancel that person for the good. The weight of the offense only harms you. Your day-to-day life will get trapped and weighted down by being consumed by unforgiveness. One way to look at it is that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. Unforgiveness and bitterness can be a nasty cycle we can get stuck in if we're not careful. And the more we dwell and focus on the wrong and how angry we are, the more poisonous that it is to us. You see, many people mistakenly think that forgiveness is for the other person, the one who wrongs us. But really, forgiveness is for us. Forgiveness is a conscious decision to let go of someone's debt to us and not expect them to make up for it. It's your way of letting go of revenge and negative emotion, all for your benefit. When we start to let go of the hurt, bitterness, and resentment, the person who hurts us no longer gets to control how we feel, and our feelings don't control us. In fact, it takes the power away from them. We choose to remove the poison from ourselves. Side note, let's be clear. I am by no means saying that the people who treat you unfairly, abuse you, or take advantage of you get a pass to keep doing it. If you're experiencing any kind of abuse, this is your encouragement and permission to have a conversation with a trusted adult and to get the help you need to get out of that abusive situation. Yes, forgiving these people is important for your benefit, but that does not mean you should forget what they've done. And that you certainly does not mean that you should not get help. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you should condone or excuse the offense. It doesn't mean that you should stay quiet if someone is hurting you or the others around you. Speaking up is not tattling or getting someone punished. It is loving yourself and telling a trusted adult to keep yourself and the others around you safe. Speaking up is being honest for the good of all. Again, if you're in an abusive situation, talk to a trusted adult, like your small group leader, and get the help that you need. Jesus set the example of forgiveness when he died on the cross for us. He showed us how to be selfless and to forgive because he knew that it was going to be hard. He knew that we would want to pay back wrong for wrong and hold on to our bitterness and our hurt. But Jesus wants us to forgive for our sake, not just for other people. Forgiving the people who hurt us is in our best interest, and Jesus wants us to live a healthy and whole life. Forgiveness isn't a magic band-aid that makes everything better, and it never makes what someone did okay or right. But it is the first step towards healing in a better tomorrow. Holding on to resentment and being bitter can be bad for you. Because here's the thing, you can technically be right. You can have the truth on your side, but it doesn't change the fact that you're stuck in negativity. And that negative place can take a huge toll on you. Now, I realize many of you are stuck in some real pain today. Some of you have been hurt deeply by the people you care about. And that makes things super complicated because your hurt is justified and so is your anger. But I can promise you this, the only way that you can find freedom from the anger and the resentment is to forgive the other person, even if they don't deserve it, even if they're not sorry. Because what forgiveness really means is to give it before someone else is sorry or deserves anything. And I realize that's asking a lot. It won't happen overnight, but here are 3 practical steps that you can take to get freedom from the bitterness and the unforgiveness in your life. First, acknowledge your feelings. It is okay to be hurt, upset, angry, sad, or disappointed, and pretending like these feelings aren't there doesn't make them go away. Second, don't let your feelings control you. You can give up your right to get revenge even when your anger says, I deserve to get them back. You can work to let go of your feelings, your anger, and your frustration instead of being held hostage by them. And finally, number 3 is repeat. There is no overnight success to escaping bitterness. It's a process. It takes time. So keep taking one step and then taking it again and then take it again. Hey, I get it. Forgiving someone feels like the other person is getting something from you. But as you head out, think about this. What are you getting from holding on to your bitterness? If you could stop replaying that offense over and over in your mind, how much time would you get back? If you could let go of your need to be right, how much less stress would you feel? If you could let go of your need to make things fair, what else could you be doing? I know it sounds counterintuitive or unreasonable. I know it sounds unfair. And most of all, I know it sounds impossible. But even though this feels like giving up power on your end, letting go actually empowers you, and it allows you to finally be released from the poisonous resentment that eats away at you and robs you of your joy and of your life. And when we let go, and when we're kind to those who have mistreated us, we take the first step from hurting towards healing, because forgiving someone is the best thing that you can do with the worst stuff that happens to you. Today, talk to your group leader about the bitterness you've experienced and about the people you need to forgive. They understand because they've been there too. Remember, the more you hold on to a grudge, the more it holds on to you.